Hagler vs. Hearns is widely regarded as one of the greatest fights in boxing history, and perhaps the greatest short fight in all of combat sports. In an era of great competitors, two of the greatest faced off and gave everything they had for 3 rounds, throwing a combined total of 338 punches, with each fighter landing over half of them. At first billed as the fight, this match would come to be known as the War. Both Hagler and Hearns were elite champions who had developed their own unique styles and strategies. Hagler was a switch hitter, comfortable fighting with either foot forward. He used this to great effect to cut off the ring or catch his opponents when they thought themselves safe. One of the greatest benefits of this is that Hagler didn't need to pivot to remain in a defensive guard like most fighters. He instead weaved as he turned to face his opponent with his opposite foot forward. This tactic earned him a number of knockouts throughout his career. As well as being comfortable in any position, Hagler was also formidable at any range. At long range, Hagler would shuffle into his lead. While gazelle punches are normally done with hooks or uppercuts, this was effectively a lead straight or almost like a gazelle jab. It covered massive distance and packed a lot of power. At close range, Hagler would break his opponent's defenses down with a steady downpour of relentless punches. And lastly, Hagler's ability to take a punch was legendary. Hagler never seemed to lose steam. He had rarely ever been wobbled, let alone knocked down. And it was widely expected that if he were to win against Hearns, it would be in the later rounds after steadily wearing him down. Hearns was a long-range in-and-out fighter with a fast, flicking jab and a terrifying right hand. Hearns' power was incredible. Whereas Hagler had gone the distance with the hands of stone, Roberto Duran, Hearns had taken him out almost effortlessly, sending him crashing to the canvas. Hearns maintained his distance through his incredibly versatile and crafty lead hand, using a combination of lightning-fast jabs, stiff arming, and head control to stay safe and set up his chopping right. Conventional wisdom said that if Hearns were to win, it would be an early victory, having cracked Hagler's granite chin. But at the opening bell, it was Hagler who shocked everyone by charging right at Hearns. Hagler was usually a refined fighter, who took his time wearing his opponents down. But now he threw every punch with full force. This left him dangerously open, but it had the desired effect. Hagler wanted to establish immediately that he was not to be taken lightly. In fact, he was someone to be feared. Hearns tried to dance away, but Hagler cut off the ring, using body shots to slow Hearns' movement and set up punches to the head. And so it was clear within the first 20 seconds that whichever way this fight ended, it would not go to decision. Everyone was curious if Hagler's legendary chin could stand up to Hearns' legendary right hand. And with Hagler throwing brutal but reckless punches, it didn't take long to get an answer. Fighting with his back against the ropes, Hearns caught Hagler with a few decent right hands, punctuated by a powerful uppercut. Hagler's legs wobbled, and he was forced to step back and cover up. Hearns was in fast pursuit, and Hagler just managed to duck under his lead hook and clinch, pushing Hearns back to the ropes and buying valuable time to recover. Hagler had expected this. He had figured he would be caught eventually, but he had noted before the fight that although he'd been shaken, he had never been hurt, while Hearns had been stopped. The way he figured it, he knew Hearns could go down, but Hearns didn't know for sure if Hagler could go down. Hagler managed to recover quickly, now confident that he could take Hearns' best shots. Only time would tell if he were right. The two men stood in the center of the ring and exchanged punches, each showing an exceptional ability to mix effective defense with powerful offense. Hagler led with his left, clipping Hearns. Hearns countered with an uppercut, but Hagler had retracted his cross in time and took it on his guard. It's hard to see at first because of the ref, but Hearns threw a cross off of his uppercut as he stepped backwards. Hearns could fight well in any direction, remaining balanced and able to load knockout power into his punches, but Hagler slipped his cross by stepping offline into an orthodox stance. Hearns was now a wide open target, and Hagler took advantage by throwing a lead hook at his head. But Hearns was already ducking off of his cross, maintaining defensive responsibility, and loading up to throw a lead hook of his own. Now it was Hagler's turn to duck under, but he had been overeager and was left off balance. Hearns saw an opportunity, and now he advanced on Hagler. But once again, Hagler's ability to effortlessly shift stances saved him, and stepping back into southpaw gave him the space he needed to slip inside. Hagler landed a right to the body, but Hearns crowded him, preventing him from throwing more effective punches. He then backed Hagler off with the lead hook as he pivoted to a safer angle. This high-level exchange had taken no more than 3 seconds, and it's crazy to think about that if either man had slipped up, even for a moment, it may have meant the end of the fight. Undeterred, Hagler pressed forward again. At first, both men remained unable to penetrate the other's defense. But then, punches began to find their mark. Hearns had a movement-based defense, so Hagler knew that if he could just get him against the ropes, it would be neutralized. Hearns was able to consistently punish Hagler as he moved backwards, but Hagler's head movement, shifting footwork, and gazelle punch allowed him to consistently drive Hearns towards the corners. And, in the last minute of the round, Hagler finally trapped Hearns in the corner, resulting in an intense close-range exchange. Both men boxed masterfully, framing to create space, weaving to avoid punches, and coming up with their own. Although Hearns landed some great shots that would have badly hurt most other opponents, Hagler began to get the better of the exchanges, timing Hearns' head movement to catch him as he came up, and throwing head-body combinations with tight, compact punches. At close range, the height difference actually worked against Hearns, leaving his body more exposed. But eventually, Hearns hit Hagler with 2 hard rights on his guard. He had fought his way off the ropes, but then Hagler stepped forward into a hard right, staggering Hearns and sending him crashing back against the ropes. Hagler pressed forward, but Hearns again fought his way off the ropes. And then, the round ended. The crowd cheered. This one round of boxing had seen more action than many entire fights. During one of the exchanges, Hearns had at some point landed a blow that opened a deep cut on Hagler's forehead, and blood would flow freely from it for the duration of the fight. As such, the attention was on Hagler's corner trying to stop the bleeding. But, unbeknownst to them, it was in Hearns' corner that a bigger problem was being dealt with. Hearns had broken his hand in a fight years ago, and as he returned to his corner, he was certain that it had happened again. But the idea of quitting never entered Hearns' mind, and he returned to the center of the ring to face his competitor without a second's hesitation. Perhaps due to his broken right hand, Hearns had decided to dance and maintain distance this round. But astonishingly, he seemed to still be looking to hurt Hagler with his right. He had just decided to pick his shots more carefully. Each time he landed must have caused incredible pain. What's truly impressive about this round is how well Hearns managed to maintain distance and set up shots, even missing his most powerful weapon. He would stop short as he stepped back, sneaking his rear hand forward and breaking his own rhythm to drive his punch into Hagler as he chased him. Hearns would then use this squared-up neutral stance for lateral movement, rebounding from one foot to another to exit out at an angle. Hearns remained elusive throughout the round, using head control to steer away from the ropes and circling with cross steps. But in the last minute of the round, Hearns grew careless and decided to throw a combination at mid-range. Hearns connected with a solid uppercut and then slipped Hagler's countercross. Both men missed with the lead hook, Hagler stepping back into orthodox to throw with his left. But then, Hagler hit Hearns hard with the right cross, stepping out of it into southpaw to slip a hook to the outside, and then landing with an off-angle hook of his own. He now chased Hearns to the ropes, landing vicious combinations until the end of the round. And although Hearns had just been brutalized on the inside, he walked back to his corner with a smile. In Hagler's corner, the cut from the first round had gotten worse. Hagler had been subject to unfair judging in the past, and he deeply feared the fight would be stopped due to the cut. The bell rang, and both men met in the middle, for what was fated to be the last round of the fight. Both men were holding their own. Half a minute in, the referee halted the action. The blood was pouring so profusely that the ref was considering stopping the fight. After consulting with Hagler, the doctor decided to let it continue, at least for now. Hagler decided he needed to stop the fight before it was taken out of his hands, and the fight was stopped for him. Halfway through the third, Hagler saw his opportunity. Hearns was having great success using Muhammad Ali's circling pattern. But then, Hagler cut him off by stepping out into orthodox from southpaw and connected with an overhand right. Hearns was shaken badly, and Hagler ran after him, catching Hearns again just as he began to turn. Hearns yet again tried to escape, and Hagler's lead left hook swung wide. But then, Hagler shuffled into his cross with everything he had, connecting solidly and sending Hearns crashing to the floor. Hearns fought his way back up, but he was clearly still shaken, and the ref called the fight. It was a dramatic finish to one of the most explosive fights in boxing history, and one of my own personal favorites. Both men could box well, and both men had taken their time in prior fights. They each knew they were fighting the absolute best, and they put everything they had into this short, brutal fight. It was an accumulation of years of hard work, practicing their craft, and working their way to the pinnacle of the sport, all showcased in under 3 rounds of beautiful, savage ringcraft. And although only one man won, the fight helped to immortalize both of them as 2 of the greatest boxers of their generation. After the fight was over, Hearns told his team to say nothing about his broken hand, saying he didn't want to take anything away from Hagler. The build-up to the fight had grown an intense rivalry between the 2 men, but each had earned the other's respect. The harsh words were forgotten, and Hearns visited Hagler's dressing room after he'd regained his footing. The 2 embraced and talked about the incredible experience they had both just endured. And Hagler began to look forward to the future, to the one great opponent of the era he had yet to conquer. Stay tuned for more fight breakdowns from the 4 kings of boxing, as well as more fight and technique breakdowns from the golden age of heavyweights. MMA breakdowns will resume soon after a short hiatus, and you can see a number of exclusive breakdowns on my Patreon. If you'd like to know how your favorite fighters put so much power into their strikes, you can buy my book, Power of the Pros. Or you can pre-order my book, Footwork Wins Fights, if you'd like to improve your footwork, out in June. All of these are linked below. And finally, I just wanted to say thank you. Whether you've been with this channel since the beginning, or you're new to my videos, I deeply appreciate all your thoughts, insights, and support. And I consider myself incredibly lucky to have so many amazing viewers. For the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.